Hello, everyone. You're listening to the Small Business Show. I'm your host, Swire. Today, my guest is Mary Harcourt. She is an entrepreneur, inventor, speaker, founder, and CEO of CosmoGlo Lighting. Mary changed the world by taking a napkin sketch idea and turning it into an innovative idea through American manufacturing as pivot during COVID-19. On the verge of being a global disrupted product, fully patented in 30 countries and with successful first win against European infringer. We all have great ideas. Mary tells her story to inspire others. I'm sure that I'm going to have a lot of questions for Mary today. Before that, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Please ask me all the questions.
For listeners who might not yet be familiar with you and your work, what should they know about you?
Absolutely. Well, I'm Mary. Thank you so much for having me on the show today. And really, just my background's simple. I came from the spa industry. I am a licensed cosmetologist since I was 18. I'm nowhere near that now. We were talking decades ago, but I have a lot of experience in the beauty industry world through a lot of different avenues, everything from waxings, facials, eyelash extensions. I ran a spa in Los Angeles. So that's my background. It's the whole beauty industry. And then you're going to hear us talk about CosmoGlo a lot. CosmoGlo is a product that I created during a COVID pivot. And up until I created it, there's nothing like it on the market, where it is a light that's made for beauty professionals. As someone in the industry, I noticed there was a hole in the market. And every time we would try to get the perfect light, there was always more things that were annoying than what were right about it. So I had the opportunity to create a light, and that's CosmoGlo.
Okay, thank you for sharing. And I wanted to go back, to ask you a question, for your journey as an innovator. So you mentioned COVID. How does it affect your business? And did you come up with that idea during COVID?
So I had been frustrated with salon lighting for quite some time. I had a three-room treatment room salon and multitudes of staff, and the staff would always trade which room they wanted. And sometimes we had these lights that would overheat. We had lights that would cast shadows, lights that weren't bright enough, lights that were too bright and give you a headache. And so I had been thinking in the back of my head, if I could just create a light for me, it would just make it worth the money. So I had prototyped this in September of 2019 on a napkin sketch, went and got the whole prototype made. And we went through 3 different versions. So I got the first one delivered. We plugged it in. It was like, oh my God, love at first light, but it needs some help. We have to make some improvements. So then we got the second version and the third version. And really, I was just making them for me. But COVID did happen. And as anyone, we all know, we all lived through it. It affected everyone differently, but it affected everyone. And I had a spa in Los Angeles. Personal care services were the first to get shut and one of the last to open. So throughout having that time of going from managing a staff and advertising and marketing and running a full clientele and a full-time spa, as soon as we got the notice that as of tomorrow, you're closed for an undefined amount of time, it was kind of like, oh, what do we do next? And so it took a little while to kind of understand COVID was and what it meant for everyone and how to stabilize our staff in their newfound time off, me included. And once I kind of leveled out with going, oh, this isn't going away anytime soon, it was thinking, wow, whole world turned upside down. But if you look at the positive side, I was just gifted so much time. I've always said if I ever had the time, I would launch this product, but when am I ever going to get the time with my busy, crazy schedule I was leading? And so really it was COVID that presented an opportunity that I didn't put a focus on prior to.
Okay. Yeah, because I think this is a conversation that I keep hearing, the thought keep hearing. There are a lot of people who have their full-time job, right? You run a business spa, but they have their hobbies. They might have their passion or they have their side hustle, right? So COVID really kicked it up a notch for a lot of people. Now there are actually a lot more businesses forming and starting every day. Since COVID, we are a lot of us are employees now. A lot of us actually innovator like yourself and become an entrepreneur for the first time.
Yeah, it opened up a whole market. I think they always say, like, get out of your comfort zone. When something's working, why change it? And that's the world I was in. I have a great staff. I have an amazing clientele. I have a working spa. We're the highest rated in Los Angeles. Like, everything's going great. Why would I ever stop that? and then it stopped for me. And when you kind of get the rug pulled out from underneath you, I think you do an evaluation of kind of your life and your situation, your surroundings and your dreams and wishes and where you're at with life, and just kind of do an assessment of like, well, I would have never changed or pivoted because I was comfortable, but here I am choosing this path that is now presented to me. And at the end of the day, I see the potential for this being a global product. I'm fixing a hole in the market. I'm solving people's problems, mine included. This can go so far. Why not see how far it can go?
One of the pushback I would say, from people who are trying to invent something is they think that you need $1 million idea, or you need angel funding, or need a bank support in order to bring your idea to life. What does it mean to you? And why, you wrote me this statement, you don't need $1 million to make your idea come to life. Uh, what was the process look like? And how much support do you really have to launching the product to the market?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of like old mentality versus new mentality. And it also goes back to where you're getting manufactured at. If you are overseas, you are going to be required to put all of that up front and then wait for it on the back end. Because of COVID, I didn't know where overseas manufacturing stood. We were in the middle of flights not being canceled, countries shutting down their borders. And so the thought of getting this manufactured to me was quite scary. And so I turned inward. Also, parallel with that's the budget I had. I didn't have $1 million to sign on the line and order 500,000 units. I had an idea that was just a prototype, but I knew how powerful it was and how far it could reach if I could just get it made. And so I went back to the people that did my prototype and kind of said, hey, on a mass scale production, what does this look like? And it was a little bit of, well, how many can you sell? Well, how many can you make? Well, how many can you sell? And we kind of went back and forth because the price determines if they're going to run this for 1 million units versus 500 units, there's a big price difference. But I was also willing to look at the long term and know that my first ones weren't going to make any money. But if I could get it to where I was breaking even, I could produce this with very little upfront cost. And so that's what I did. I went to the manufacturer that did my prototyping. They had to scale it to a size that made sense for them. And we decided contractually, hey, if you can put 50% down in cash, we can expel the next over the next 30 days. And we can start with an order. I requested an order of 400. They wanted to make sure that I was actually going to sell them and not come back on that contract. So they said, why don't we break your order in 2 different variations? Let's start with an order of 150, backed up with an order of 250. And I said, that's fine. Can I have my deposit only be for the first 150 lights? And they said, we can make that work. And when you break it down like that, it really wasn't that much. Yes, it cost money. Yes, it hurt me to take it out of my savings. And it was kind of everything I had at that moment. But once the ball started rolling, we were able to put the deposit down and open up for pre-sales and sell our lights before they came off the production line. So I didn't need angel investors. I didn't need $1 million backing. I didn't need to take out a huge giant business loan because I started so small. And I think sometimes you hear these $1 million ideas with angel investors. It's because they want to splash big. If I wanted everyone in the entire country to know that my idea exists in 3 weeks, I'm going to need that type of funding. But with me, this was a whole brand new idea. Would it even work? So I started small and was able to grow it since.
I remember when we talked the first time, you mentioned that you actually had a very creative idea for telling the world about your product. Can you share what method did you use, and how how does it really benefit your company?
Yeah, so it was fun. I mean, at the end of the day, social media is huge, right? So I had these 3 prototypes and I decided just to go in my salon, doors were closed, everyone was shut down for COVID, and show everyone, here's what it is. Here's a light. It has ear-to-ear coverage. It's an arc shape, like a half circle, and it gives you shadowless coverage, which has never existed in my industry before. And when you're working on a person's face, or in tattoo world, you're working on an arm or a leg, you want that full coverage light. And it's adjustable high to low. It adjusts in height. It has a flat base. You're not going to kick it over like a tripod. And just getting the word out that, hey guys, this exists. I'm putting it into production right now and dropping that into forums saying, would this work for you? And I just wanted to test the water. What would happen if? And I dropped the video, and within an hour, I had over 150 comments. And I thought, oh, wow, this is going to be big. And so shortly after, we confirmed our shipping dates. I set up the website and we opened for pre-sales, and I started selling that first day I got sales.
Wow. So you actually record a video and then you post it on your social platform, and you're getting good responses. So that's kind of your mini version of doing a commercial, right? Like a real life commercial on your product.
Absolutely. And if anyone knows the value and strength in Facebook forums, I know Facebook is a little bit of an outdated platform and it has its limitations, but these forums are concentrated groups of people that are interested in the same thing as you. And you can just search them, just search groups and whatever you're into, whatever topic is there. And for me, I started in lashes. We're expanding now into multi-industries, but I started with lashes, and I could join groups that had over 150,000 lash artists as be a part of them. And so I just went down the list and joined all of them. And it was so powerful to be able to make a homemade video with my cell phone, showing off a new product and dropping it in that forum and reaching a multitude of people so quickly within minutes. And then, of course, the more likes and comments and interactions you get, the further to the top so they can show more people.
I'm so glad that you're able to find your focus very early on, because a lot of times when we talk to entrepreneur and a lot of business professional, they wanted to target everyone, because you did mention a lot of different industry to use it, but you're able to find particular group where all the professional in the beauty industry, in the eyelash industries are in there. So you're actually able to pinpoint where these people are and you show it to them. Because if you show it to me, like I probably won't buy it.
Well, absolutely. And it's not a product for everyone. It's a very niche product. But the beautiful thing about niche is everyone is concentrated and it takes a little splash to make a big ripple. Where sometimes, if you have such a huge product, you have to reach so many people in so many different areas to make that same splash with a very particular industry or product or problem you're solving. It makes the job a little easier to find that target market.
Yeah, I really like that idea. So a lot of times that we are scared, if we don't target everyone, we might be missing out. For example, if Mary would have do a light, then everyone can be a target. But Mary didn't do that. She chose to design and develop a specific light that works as a spark. Professional uses it, and not everyone will have needs for it. But then you're able to find your target audience, and you're able to make your case right with your video to them, and you're getting the good response. So what's the next step? You're getting orders in, and then what are the process going before? Are there any challenges bringing those lights into the market?
Oh yeah, launching a product is next level. It's like nothing else I've ever experienced in my life. Kind of like everything you think could go wrong, there's more. But if you can get, excuse me, if you can get over those hurdles, it gets a lot easier. That was a very hard lesson for me to learn. I think I related it to I was always self-employed. So what I did, I was in control of, and I could make it happen. Where when you're manufacturing, you don't have that control. You're relying on someone else who honestly is relying on someone else and their staff to make it happen. And mind you, this was COVID world. So supply chain was shortened left and right, and people were getting sick at certain points. The manufacturer that I worked with, their factory just shut because everyone had COVID or was spreading it or couldn't risk the workers come back in. And we had already launched saying we will ship by this date. And I had to go back and go, I'm so sorry, we're not going to hit that date. Let's move it by 3 weeks. I'm happy to refund if you want to, but also know that it's going to happen. It's just a delay. And then even with that date, it got pushed again because the workers did come back to work, but the supplies were not delivered yet. And it just became, we were almost 2 months delayed in our launch. But I look back now, and at the time it was so painful and it hurt so bad. But really, what's 2 months in a span of a lifetime? We were able to deliver a product that changes people's lives and allows them to do their job better. So that's exciting. And just understanding when you have a product, when you have a launch, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be you opening up a new business, starting a new job, trying a new hobby. Anything you do, the first time you do it, it's not going to be perfect. And another thing I look back on and kind of laugh, because I sat in my salon and cried the first time that my lights went out, because they had The instructions were backwards. You physically could not put them together the way that the instructions said to do. And I thought, oh my God, I'm such an embarrassment. How could I let this happen? And now I look back at that. If that was my only issue, that not that that was my only issue, but if I had issues that small still, that's so cute and adorable, I would trade the issues I have now for that any day of the week. And I think it's just training. It's like the faster you can get those lessons, break them down, understand what needs to be fixed, go fix them, and then get back out there. The faster you can get going in life, whether it is a business or a product or your own life. It's just you're always going to have challenges. And if you can understand how to work through them, then you're better off.
So Mary, talk me through. I know that you get through the initial phase and you're getting good response from people in the industry. You're actually thinking about going global with your product. So what is that process like? Because I also work with a lot of different businesses. They think the American market is big enough to sustain them. But I sometimes drop in and say, there are actually a lot of buyers out there in the rest of the world. What makes you think to go past what you can do here in the US and going global?
I probably would have been satisfied just staying in the US, but it's getting over 50 inquiries every day asking if we ship to Colombia and Brazil and Europe and Italy and Spain and Australia and Poland and
Wow.
Netherlands, that you have to say every day, no, I'm sorry, we're only in the US. I'm sorry, we're only US. I'm sorry, we're in the US, where it's like, God, I mean, think of it this way. I'm one person in one salon that had an idea that's in one industry out of how many industries that this light could work for. And I'm in one city out of how many cities in California, out of one state out of 50. And USA is one country out of around 200 and something, out of one continent out of 7. So when you have these ideas, I think it's natural to think, okay, I'm good here. I'm just going to stay with what we have, going back to that comfortable thing, comfortability. But when you look at how big the rest of the market is, it really is huge. And if you have an idea and it can spread, then you want to go for that, because my product solves problems, and people are having these problems, seeing social media going, no, I need that light. I don't think you understand. I need that light. I must have that light. I have to have it. And hearing all the messages come in, it made me think, wow, maybe we really should go. And so we started the process, and it is a process, but you get all your tax paperwork set up, you set up your bank accounts, you set up your shipping, your warehousing, your 3PL, and all of a sudden you get to a point where it's like, whoa, we're almost there. Like, we're doing it. I'm waiting for a message in the next 2 to 3 weeks that says, welcome to Australia, EU, and UK. And so it really wasn't my idea as much as it was the customer's request. And I can't say no to people begging for a product.
Yeah, that's a great story, and I'm really interesting that we live in a really big world right now. If you have a good product, if you have a great product and service to offer, people actually will reach out to you, and like in your case, actually really want your product to be available at their location.
Absolutely. And going back to social media, it's as simple as a video. My reels haven't gone that high, but Instagram is favoring reels at the moment. And one of our customers used our light. And within, I think it was a span of 72 hours, her reel had 42 million hits of
Wow.
people that viewed. And the comments were, where do I get that light? Where do I get that light? Where do I get that light? I need that light. And of course, it was Russia, it was Poland, it was Australia, it was New Zealand, it was everywhere. But social media has made it that there is no longer borders and walls. If people see something, they want it. It's no longer the newspaper world of, we live in this city, here's the local news printed to you on paper. It's the reach is so much broader and faster now that going global, it almost was the right thing to do at the right time, because I would do everyone a dishonor if I stayed in the US alone.
You mentioned a very interesting point, is the user generated review, right? So you didn't pay for that user to make that reel on Instagram. It's because they like the product or they want to review the product. There are many people now just making a living reviewing products. So as a manufacturer, do you value those more? Or once you see that reel going viral, right, falling 2 million views, are you thinking about strategy using social media? And do you think that kind of will be really a low cost or no cost way to market the brand? Would you agree?
I would agree. It's also completely unplannable. It's not like you can set out to say, hey, I'm going to film this reel and it's going to hit 40 million people in 72 hours. You could film 5,000 reels and never go above 100,000. And then one day you hit it. So it's hard to say, yes, it's a tool and it's a tool in your toolbox, but I wouldn't bet the whole farm on saying we're only using social media. But it does help. Influencers are great, even micro influencers. And it's really big for us is because it's an elevated product. It's salon furniture. It's sleek. It's the only light that, wow, it looks beautiful. It's not cords hanging out. It's not on a tripod. It's not half fallen over. It's a very elevated look. And so that spreads far when someone's showing you a treatment room. Here's a treatment room. Here's the services I offer. People look at that and go, whoa, what's that light? What is that? What is that? And then they buy it and go, hey guys, I just want to show you my room. When you come get a service, this is the room that you're going to come to. It's very inviting. Here's my services. Someone else watches that going, whoa, 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 what's that light? And so social media for us is definitely a tool, but it's hard to predict what's going to work and what's not going to work as much as it is an organic. Sometimes you hit it huge and sometimes you put a reel out that gets 15 views and there you are. You got to be creative in your strategy. And I think use all the tools as far as word of mouth. We still go to trade shows. We do different collaborations, email lists. So it's a tool.
Okay. So wanted to bring back to the original conversation and then the idea that I have. I am a person with a lot of crazy ideas and none of them really turn into reality. But walk us through the process. How are you able to think for developing ideas, seeing there's a misfit, right, in your industry, something that you're not happy about? You actually create something, initially for your own use, right? And then decided, I really should, go deeper into this and introduce my idea to the world. For someone who might have a unique idea, or I have my grandma's recipe, I know it's going to be a hit, that are thinking about starting their own entrepreneur journey, what would be your suggestion and recommendation to them?
I mean, literally just start. Don't worry about how big you want to be. Don't worry about where you're at right now. Don't worry about how much money you need to start. Just start with anything you can and get started. I often look at the blessing I had that I didn't have $1 million in funding, because at the end of the day, anytime you start, you're not the expert. You have to take that path. You have to take the journey. And the lessons are the same, whether you start with your own pocket money or $1 million. They're the exact same lessons you learn. So it's a larger scale and it's harder to recover. Where for me, I was fortunate that I did start with my pocket money. I started with everything I had that I could put on the table and say, if I lose this, it's okay, I'll start over. Because those lessons were so little, they happen at such a small scale. And so as you go through the process, you can scale, and your scaling is very sustainable because you're learning these lessons and working through them. And I think I look at that a lot of times with people saying, oh, I want to start this project, but I just don't know how. I don't know how much money I need. I don't really know what it's going to cost me to get it manufactured. Well, dive into it. Take a Google search. I didn't know how much it took for me to get a prototype made until I found someone that said, yeah, we can do that. Okay, cool. And they told me the price. And I thought, oh God, that's a lot. But also, that's how much I replaced my lights 3 separate times. And my employees were still upset with each set of them. So I thought, there's no more lights on the market I can buy. This is the same price it cost me to replace the sets I've already replaced. If I get a light that works and I can keep them happy and there's no more complaints, that's a win. And so then you do the math going, okay, I got my first prototype. It cost me this much. That's not a realistic number when it comes to manufacturing. But how many do I need to sell? And at what price point can we get that down to? And even that first batch for me, you're not going to make any money on your first. There's no timeline for everyone. It's different. But understand you're going to work for free for a little while. And I had my salon background. So I was busy reopening and getting things going. At the same time, I had a steady income to invest in getting the prototypes and getting my first, second, third, fourth batch launched. That by the time I got to where we were at a really good place, I was able to sell my salon and move away from it and let it take me on. It was the first time I was able to take a paycheck out of it. But just getting started, everyone has ideas. They can sit on the shelf for the next 5 years. It's not going to do anyone any justice. But if you really have a great idea and you want to bring it forward, just start Start with understanding who you can contact. Google who's going to make it. Google how much it's going to cost. Call them and say, can I get a quote for this project? Here's the size I can afford right now. Here's potentially what I would like to be at per month in about 6 or 7 months if this really takes off. What's it going to cost me then? And there's your numbers.
Thank you so much, Mary. I think you're a really smart entrepreneur. I could already point out that you are good at negotiating. You're good at reading your numbers, and you're not afraid to try something new. So I think these are a lot of things that we don't think about. Maybe we are really good at what we do, but when we know nothing about the number, and maybe we're scared of asking for a discount or a better term. A lot of us are that way. We think that whatever that we're being quoted, we should pay that price. What if you could rework the situation a little bit, like what Mary did? Initially, maybe we could put in this order, but then potentially we could do that. Would you consider to help us initially? So I think that's a very creative way. And sometimes if you know your way around, maybe one person or one company will say, no, definitely not. There are other companies out there. Even within the US, there's a lot of different people who have different capability. Maybe just talking to the wrong people who might not be a good fit. Talk to another one. And you're really smart to get on forums to get people's opinion. I'm sure that with knowing the conversation that we have right now, when people point out there are things that needs to be changed and update, you probably built into that, and then your next version is going to be better than the previous versions.
Absolutely. And I always say, go into these things confident. You're going to need a lot of no's, but someone is always there to work with your budget, and somebody is always there to work with your timeline. You just have to find them. It might require more research, but I know when I found my manufacturer, they weren't interested in my first order of 150. They had no interest at all whatsoever. They had an interest when I said, I want to be a global name. They did the math on understanding, wow, if she wants to take her product globally and we can get in now and she can be a client of ours for life, that's a great relationship. And flip flop, I didn't build my company for year one. I built it for year 20, and that's where we're going. And I think you just have to get started, but understand there is a journey and a growth and a scaling process that happens along the way, but everyone is capable of it.
Do you have any tips for us when you run into challenge or sometimes objection, or when you talk about early on the other setback for supply chain delay? What is your thought process? How do you keep yourself motivated instead of throwing up the towel and say, "That's it, I'm done"?
It's hard. It's hard. We're facing it right now. We're about to come out of a delay we've had that put us into a month delay, and it was not planned, and it didn't come with a warning label. It came of, we're going to pause for 3 days as we wait for a shipment to come in that actually got lost, and we had to wait for another emergency shipment to get overnighted to then resume processing, which snowballs and pushed us a week behind, which then something else came up and pushed us 2 weeks behind, and now we're at 4 weeks. We're coming out of it, but it's hard. I can't say it's easy. I feel that. I take that burden to bed. I wake up with it. But I will say, for what's worked for us in my company, we try to be as transparent as possible and give everyone the satisfaction of knowing your order is in processing. We did reach a delay. We're working through it. Everyone is doing their absolute best to get you your order as fast as possible. If you need to make other arrangements, we're here to help you through that as well. But trust in knowing that we are doing everything to make sure that your quality is held as high as what we like to give, and your order will be on the way shortly. And in a pandemic world, I think people understand and appreciate that, because there's delays everywhere. Go to your grocery store. We have empty shelves. Everybody's out of things. And as much as we don't like dealing with it, when it's broken down into, hey, this is what's really happening, and we're really trying to get you through it, it's more palatable for the customer to go, you know what, I trust you. You guys, I still want the product. Thank you for the heads up. I'm going to leave my order in, and I'll get it when I get it. So being transparent, and also learning how to tackle those disappointments, those challenges. For me, I give myself 1 day. I'm allowed to cry over it for 1 day. And then the next morning, I have to wake up and we have to get a plan because it does hurt when you have a little fall or instructions come out backwards. It sucks. That's embarrassing. It is not a feel good feeling. But the next day, we were making videos and showing everyone step by step on a 5-step process. Here's how to get your light together. Throw the instructions out, they're not going to work, but here's how the video. And then all of a sudden, people were writing in going, "Thank you so much. I got it together. It's the best light I've ever used in 10 years of lashing. This is going to go places." So, really, all of that came from me kind of just having a moment, having a breakdown, go through feel the pain of that issue, and then work through it and conquer it and come out ahead.
I think this is a really great episode, and when you think about all the listener, if you really have an idea that you want to bring to life, there are two type of businesses, right? So what Mary is going through, she's an entrepreneur. She's not afraid to take on challenges. As I was asking her all the questions, there are a lot of setback, a lot of mistakes sometimes as an entrepreneur. Or you could run a business, there's no challenge, then you will just be a facilitator, you will just be a manager. So it's not for everyone, but I would say that it's fun to be an entrepreneur. Everything and every day are different. You have different challenges, but then if you like challenges, you're a type of person that like to take on something that no one has done before, then entrepreneur and entrepreneurship is right for you.
Absolutely. And I'll throw in too, you asked what a good tip is. It's knowing that failure is a part of the game. I think when people have an idea and they haven't started yet and they don't know where to start, it's because fear is holding them back. And failure is literally a part of the recipe. If you don't add in failure, you will not get the other side of that, which feels really great when you are successful and succeeding. So don't let it stop you. That what if you do this first batch of hot sauce and it turns out terrible? What if you spend money on this and no one likes it? That's all possible. And to be honest, it's probably going to happen, but you're going to learn what hot sauce people love. And the next batch is going to be even better. You're going to know what they didn't like about your product and why they didn't buy it. And you can go back and fix the labeling and packaging. And each one of those setbacks makes you stronger into where you put a hot sauce in front of someone and they're like, that is the best damn thing I've ever had. I'll take a case.
Yeah, that's something that a good entrepreneur will always do. We anticipate there's going to be something that goes wrong or didn't go away, along the process, but it's how we're adjusting it, how we adapt. I'm sure that you mentioned the mistakes that you have made, then you will find ways to improve that process. Maybe you even to find ways to never do it again. The same mistakes. You have your list of protocol or list of checklist that now I'm sure that you do to avoid any of this being happen again. So, we get better, we adapt. And entrepreneur, there's not really a book that you can read to learn about it, but just by doing and making those mistakes, hopefully small and early on, then you learn from it, and then that's how you get better.
Absolutely. And also know that the most important part is just get started because the rest is going to fall in place. With my light, we've done probably over 80 adjustments to make it a stronger, more stable light. Does the customer know? No, we've been selling the same light since day one. But it's knowing that you're going to have little hiccups along the way. Iron them out and move forward. Don't get stuck on that starting line. It's more important to start. And I think as an entrepreneur, like you said, there's no books you can read. There isn't any book you can read to explain what it is. But if you have that thought process, that thing you think about every day, the thing that you go to bed going, if I ever get the time, that thing in your stomach that says, oh, I just can't wait to do this, that feeling is worth pursuing, and you should.
So, Mary, thank you so much for coming on today. For listener who want to find out more about your product, what would be the best way to reach out to you?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I hope everyone got something out of this time we had today. Our website is thecosmoglo.com. There's no W, so it's just COSMGLO, thecosmoglo.com. And you can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, all the fun things at Mary Harcourt _ if you're on Instagram. But Mary Harcourt will find you. And I also have a website under the same name as that.
Thank you so much for coming on today, Mary. Learn a lot today.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.